New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Good afternoon and welcome to Finding the Joy in the Journey. I am Rev Gina and I am blessed to be here with you today. And I have a wonderful guest with me and it is such a gift. So thank you for being here on Finding the Joy in the Journey. Now, what does that mean? What is that all about? You know, many people, especially these days, we're all about what can we accomplish? What's the next goal? What is we're human doings and not human beings. Well, the truth is, what we are really here to do is the best versions of ourselves. And that doesn't happen by the to-do list. That doesn't happen on the outside. It begins on the inside. See, finding the joy in the journey isn't about completing tasks. It's about recognizing who and whose we are. You know, it is a blessing to be and know that I am the beloved of the beloved. It is a blessing to know the same of you. So when I am in that place of knowing and when I am tapped in, tuned in, turned on, and connected, I recognize it's not about just about what I do, but how I live and who I am. See, finding the joy in the journey is not about climbing the mountain and getting to the top. It's about appreciating the view every step of the way and enjoying it as we go. You will never be who you are or where you are ever again in the same way that you are right now. The view will never be exactly the same. And it is so important that we recognize and appreciate that right here and now. And the more that we do that, the more joy we find in our lives. So it's not about finding it as in chasing it down. And it's not about accomplishing the next thing and the next thing. You know, to me, that's destination happiness. That when I have the perfect mate, when I have the perfect job, when I've lost the weight, when I have enough money in the bank, when I can go on vacation, that's a destination happiness, and it never lasts. True joy you were born with and as. It is within you, as is peace and love. And when we recognize it and utilize it, when we appreciate the blessings, life itself is better right here and now. So the guest that I have today is absolutely somebody that knows that, is somebody that you can tell is fully living. We're blessed today to have Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer here, and he's a native of San Diego County. He's been a New Thought religious science minister since 2007. Reverend Dr. Jerry's board president of the affiliated New Thought Network, Anton, a membership organization of New Thought centers and churches, including Unity, CSL, Divine Science, and Independence, as well as individual people and ministers. Jerry is a founding board member and currently director of relationship development for a wonderful organization, Urban Street Angels. It's in San Diego, and it works with it basically it works with the people that I think are often forgotten but need it the most. They're working to end youth homelessness by providing housing, employment, and life skills training to homeless transition age youth between 18 and 25. He also serves as a staff minister for the OM Center of Spiritual Living, and he's the author of the acclaimed book, Coming Out to Ourselves, Admitting, Accepting, and Embracing Who We Truly Are. Reverend Dr. Jerry lives in La Mesa, which is a suburb of San Diego, with his beautiful English cream retriever, Maggie, his son, Brandon, and the family, and also has 7 grandchildren nearby in Eugene, Oregon. So I am blessed and grateful to bring in Reverend Dr. Jerry Troyer. Welcome. Welcome to Finding the Joy in the Journey. How are you today?
Thank you, Reverend Gina. It's great to be with you. I am wonderful. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you. It is a beautiful day here in New England. It's 80 degrees, which is, it's beautiful. It's sunny. There's a whole lot of pollen, but other than that, it's perfect out there. It is perfect out there. So I'm loving spring. All the buds are on the trees, and it reminds us of the rebirth that is always possible. That,
right.
There's times that we need to ebb and flow. And when it comes back out and pops like that, life reminds us what it's all about.
Yep.
So how are you in general? I know you're all over the country. I've spoken to you several times, and you've been 3 different places. Yeah. There's so much that you're a part of, and I'm really excited to have you here. We've got some important things to talk about. But how are you doing? How are you feeling today?
I am literally wonderful. I'm in San Diego, where it's always beautiful. You can see out the window behind me. It's sunny and high 60s.
Wow.
So life is good weather-wise, and life is good in every other area of my life. Doing really, really well and having a wonderful time.
Good to hear. Wonderful. I personally didn't know about Anton until, I'd heard of Anton about a year ago. And as time's gone on, I've heard more about it. And I do love, we are part of, and I say we as New Thought Media Network, this network that we're on right now, is part of Anton as well. Right. And yes. It is, again, it's affiliated New Thought Network. So it's, in other words, we are here as part of an umbrella under that of all of New Thought. And I do love tell me a little bit more about what they stand for.
Mm-hmm. So we've been around for 31 years. We celebrated 30 years last year. We are, again, a membership organization of New Thought centers and churches. So Divine Science, Religious Science, Centers for Spiritual Living, Independence, Unity, as well as individuals. So ministers, practitioners, licensed Unity teachers, and individuals. So if you have a ministry, and because you do, whether you have alphabet soup before or after your name, you have a ministry in the world, Anton is for you. So we have about 130 members so far. We are now international because we have members in Canada and Switzerland, which is incredibly exciting. And we're this organization of about 130 organizations and individuals. We do a virtual retreat once a year. We do an in-person retreat once a year at Unity Village outside of Kansas City.
So we're going to talk about that a little bit more while we're there. Don't talk about this. We've got that up there. It's called Emergence, Spirit in Bloom. I love it. You've got some amazing people coming. So let's mention some of them. You've got Jeff Onseely, Lisa Benson, Nemo Patel, who has been on this show, as well as Daniel Namod, who has, James Mellon as well. So you've got some, is it Malone? How do you say his name?
Mellon.
Okay, just in
Yep.
case.
Yep.
Okay. So you've got some wonderful people coming. And when is it?
So it's October 2nd to the 6th at Unity Village, which is outside of Kansas City. Whether you're Unity based or not, if you have not been to Unity Village, if you've been to Unity Village, you know that it is the most amazing place. It is so beautiful, so incredible, so spiritual,
and fun.
And fun. And if you've not been to Unity Village, get it off your bucket list and come and be with us in October for this amazing week of fellowship, of amazing speakers, wonderful music, really good food. They do. I am a vegan vegetarian, and they do this amazing barbecue tofu that just makes you want to cry. It's so good. So we just and that's okay. We just have an amazing time together, and it's fun, it's interesting, it's heart opening. It's just the greatest time. And we've got discount registration for another couple of months. So go to anton.org to get more information and to register. And we'd absolutely love to see you there.
And it is, I've heard so many wonderful things. They even have which I've got a kick out of, they have a whole bunch of bicycles that people can just borrow and go around the campus. And there's just all kinds of, it's fun. And I've heard people that the last one was incredible. And this one's, I have no doubt will be amazing. So it is truly a wonderful opportunity for people to come together in a loving way with New Thought Music. And I know, New Thought Media Network will be there. And we have actually quite a few people that are going. We were just speaking about it. We had a meeting on Tuesday, and there were a bunch of people that are going. So we're definitely going to be there, and not just on the network showing people, of course, but we'll be broadcasting live different parts of it. But it's really a wonderful new and larger umbrella. It's a larger picture of New Thought in a different way. And in that note, you're actually going to be going to the World Parliament of Religions.
Excuse me. Yes. So my calendar is amazing and wonderful. I'm going to the International New Thought Alliance, INTA, the third week of July in Fort Lauderdale. The Parliament of World Religions, the second or third week of August in Chicago, and then, of course, the Anton Conference, the beginning of October. So all amazing and wonderful opportunities to see dear friends in the, I was going to say in the industry, but in the teaching and in the world. Yes, very excited about that.
I joined myself. I joined as well as CSL Greater Boston, which is my center. I'm blessed to be a part of, and we actually joined recently. And I went on, and immediately there were workshops, all kinds of wonderful workshops that are offered, and it was actually free to members. So there's a lot of different things that are out there, and I knew many people. When I got into the workshop, I knew people, so there's a lot of resources, and it was pretty amazing. So I encourage people to look into it and realize. And another thing that I love is it's not this or that. It's this and that.
Yes.
If like you've mentioned a couple of the different places, of course, I'm part of Centers for Spiritual Living, and I love it. And it's not a choice between one or. We're all New Thought. So it's an opportunity to come together under that wider umbrella and be here in the oneness and playing together. And that's really, there is no separation. And when we don't practice it, we can be in the joy that we are. We just have fun.
Yes. Yep. And we have a great deal of fun. The Thursday night, we have Emerson Institute's graduation is that Thursday afternoon, and then Thursday night we do a closing banquet and auction. I, for whatever reason, have been the auctioneer for the last several years, and I believe I'll be doing that until I go on to my next experience. But it's just so much fun. So we have we auction off events, we auction off guest speakers, we auction off really cool stuff. So it's just a week of heart-opening, mind-opening fun. Yeah, so just really encourage folks to go to the website and get more information.
That's wonderful. And it's a wonderful organization. So I encourage people, find out a little bit more about it. And the next thing I want to talk about is your book, because I know you do a lot of workshops and trainings around grief and forgiveness around this. And I also know that you have a part 2 that's closer than that's pretty close too. So tell us about this book, Coming Out to Ourselves, Admitting, Accepting, and Embracing Who We Truly Are.
So this book was written several years ago, and it was about my coming to terms with and not only accepting, but really embracing the fact that I'm a gay man. But for all of us, and the gay community uses the term coming out when we're admitting to the world and ourselves about our sexual orientation. But I would suggest that all of us have the opportunity to come out when we're finally admitting something that's happened in our lives. And one of the examples I use is being adopted. I was not, but I attended a Dr. Phil's show shortly before I finished the book, and 3 of the young women on the show were high school age and had been flirting with older men, sending them inappropriate photos and so forth, and just really a little out of control. And so the parents apparently contacted Dr. Phil and reached out to him. And so they had the parents and the girls on the show, and he asked them, so why are you doing this? Why are you sending these inappropriate photos to older men? And the girls said, we're just looking for someone to love us. And so he didn't bring it up. And I'm like, yo, Phil, you missed this. But is it possible that the girls were believing that they were not good enough, that their birth parents threw them away, and so they were looking outside themselves for someone to love and accept them? And so when we recognize the truth of our being, like you were talking about before, that we already are the beloved, that nothing that has happened or ever could happen can change that, then it absolutely affects our lives. So talking about that, talking about forgiveness, with an older view of forgiveness. So the book that I'm working on now that talks about forgiveness as a process, not an event, talks about allowing ourselves to feel and heal our grief and loss and some other things. But the first book kind of gives you some foundation about me and where I came from, and hopefully a lot of people can relate to. So it's available on Amazon. And as well as when I come to your spiritual community and do a workshop, I'll have books with me.
Wonderful. And it's so important that we remember that it's not just about we can acknowledge something, but that doesn't mean that we approve of it for ourselves.
Right. That acceptance, that getting it into your heart that this is my truth. Yes.
That I am lovable, that I am not just worthy, but I am perfect as I am. Yep. And knowing that the soul within me is untouchable. It doesn't matter where the beginnings were, right here, right now. Each one, that's why I love this background. Each one is that stardust. Mm-hmm. Each one is that star. So it's coming to a place of realization and really acknowledging ourselves and honoring ourselves in a new way. So part of coming out is coming into our own and appreciating, yes, this is who I am, and it's really okay. And it is a process, because some days we're okay, and other days we wake up, we look in the mirror, and it's not okay. So it's being, it's being in alignment, because when we look at from the outer, there's problems, but when we come from the inner, it's spirit. It's all spirit.
Yes. Right.
And the second book you had talked about, but really forgiveness is something that ebbs and flows every day. We can do forgiveness work, from the day we're born to the day we, to the day we transition. And there's always going to be something, because, it's forgiving ourselves, it's forgiving others, and, giving ourselves permission to be ourselves. And the other thing that about forgiveness too is understanding that, there is nothing to be forgiven. That's the biggest thing when it comes to spirit. For me, that was one of my biggest hangups, is that I hadn't done enough, or I wasn't good enough. So for years, there was that part of me that felt less than, because I wanted to be enough for spirit. Have you ever had that? Has that ever been your experience?
Absolutely. And actually that's another chapter in the book. I found this other great book, Radically Content. Jamie Veron is the author. Amazing book. And she writes about this, the destination anxiety that you were talking about later, that I'll be acceptable, I'll be okay as soon as I, get the new relationship, get out of the old relationship, have a certain BMI, have a certain degree, get this done, et cetera, et cetera. And so often our destination is based on what somebody else tells us is okay, is acceptable, is success. But the truth is, our success is our success. It has nothing to do with what anybody else wants. It's what our soul, what our still small voice tells us. So yeah, absolutely.
We each have a purpose.
Yep.
And it's in fulfilling that purpose that we are fulfilled. And it's not fulfilling it as we're done. We're never done. If we're still breathing, we're never done. But when we're doing the work, and I don't, sometimes the word work comes across wrong, the vocation, when we're living the life we're meant to lead, sharing the gifts we've been given, it doesn't feel like work, and we're fulfilled by it. And that's where that contentment and that joy stems from, is within us. Unfortunately, we live in a society of bigger, better, faster, more, that's always looking for the next thing. Well, I have a car, but I need a better car. Well, I have a job, but I need a better job. And then it turns into relationships sometimes. And we think, well, I have one, but they do this, this, and this. And you know what? It's too easy to dispose of anything instead of looking at it and saying, okay, what do I honor about it?
Yeah.
It's important that if we're not okay with us, we're not going to be okay with anything.
No. Right. And in that we allow ourselves to access the sacred. Yes, I want to do that. The sacred, no, I don't want to do that. And the sacred, I don't know. I don't know if that's for me to do. I don't know what the next step is in my life. And I've certainly been through that, but allowing whatever's next to come when it's ready. Yes.
I love that.
All of that and more in the book.
I don't know. And
I don't know. The sacred, I don't know. Yes.
Isn't that a wonderful place to be? To honor ourselves enough to say, I don't know, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And, we don't, unfortunately, our society isn't built like that. It doesn't support that path sometimes. So it's about I think it's about finding our tribe. That's one of the things I loved when we were talking about Anton is like when I think of new thought, I think of acceptance and love. And that doesn't mean that it's I guess it's not a given and I don't take it for granted, but that's one of the things about new thought that I've loved so much is that in this oneness, I can be who I am. For me, I've always thought of the teachings almost like the land of misfit toys. I've said this before in the show. I get a kick out of I love Christmas and everything Christmas anyway, but the Rudolph misfit toys,
Right.
the train that had the square wheels and the baby doll that cried jelly and all the things that were just a little bit off. And I love that they were different. All of my life, I always loved that they were different. And I think that that's the beauty of who we are, is that we are different. And the more that we honor that, the greater our experience of life is.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
So tell me, in your book, how do you go into that? Like, what is it? What was your path? How did you find and come to terms with all you did?
So, well, a big part of the book and a big part of my ministry has to do with us allowing ourselves to experience and feel and heal grief and loss. In New Thought, there are those statements that when we experience a death or a job change or a relationship change or any kind of heartbreaking experience, we try to cover it up with statements like everything's in divine order, everything is as it should be, it's all good. And those statements are absolutely true, but the fact is that our hearts may be breaking. And so my story really quickly is my husband and I had been together for 33 years, and he died of colorectal cancer. It's been almost 5 years ago, in the airport in Houston on the way home from the Anson conference. And went through the process of that and dealing with when someone dies in a state other than where they live and all of that, and got home with 4 suitcases because I left his body in Houston to be dealt with. Came home, came into the empty house, sat down with the 4 suitcases, started to grieve, and my ego said, no, 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 no. You are a religious science minister. Everything is in divine order. Everything is as it should be. And so I really spent several months almost battling with myself, because the human of me wanted to grieve and allow myself to feel what I felt, but the religious scientist of me said, no, and we human beings in the West don't process death really well anyway. We don't even say the D word. We say, they've made their transition, they've gone on to their next experience, all of those things. And so I created a workshop around allowing ourselves to feel the grief and the loss and the anger and the hurt and all the rest of that, again, from the time we lost during COVID, from when someone dies, from whenever there's a heartbreaking event in our lives. So rather than covering it up with the sugar, allowing ourselves to feel it so that we can move forward. So I've taken that on the road, and I just am having amazing heart-opening reactions from people, because we don't like to talk about this.
And it's a topic that is near and dear to my heart as well. And when we first met, we met at a workshop, and we couldn't get enough in. We were chatting so quickly.
Yes, yeah,
because it's so important that we have these dialogues. It is so important that we remember that grief is a human emotion, and there are waves of it. You're never over it. It's never done. Mother's Day weekend, this Sunday is Mother's Day. And, my mom And whether you call it transition or death or whatever you call it, they're not on this spiritual plane. I spoke with my mother every day for pretty much all of my life. I've spoke with my mother every day, and she transitioned. This is now my third Mother's Day without her. And you can call it whatever you want to call it, but when someone's in your life every day and then they're not anymore, there's emotion in that. And to deny that is a break and a lie. Like, it's a break in my own honesty, and it is that spiritual bypass that, religious sciences, scientists especially, are famous for, because,
Yes, right.
we take it straight to the top. And yes, you might. However, there are human emotions that are, it's the equivalent of telling a child to go stand in the corner because you don't want to hear them. And that doesn't change. It does nothing good for the child. The rest of us, our emotions, our mind, that ego, we're still human. The humanness can't just go stand in the corner and pretend it's okay. Something's going to break, or it puts a filter over us and it doesn't let the light in or out.
Right. And very often it comes out in surprising and wonderful ways, like road rage, like what happened to that pint of Ben & Jerry's that I was saving, like what happened to the leftover pizza, like I was saving that bottle of red wine, or I was saving my money to go on vacation, and all of a sudden I went to the mall and wound up spending $500. So how important it is for us to allow ourselves to feel it, and quoting Debbie Ford, we have to feel it so we can heal it.
The shadow work. She does a lot of wonderful,
right.
And that's actually, the shadow is part of our conversation this month with Centers for Spiritual Living. And it's really about, we need to know what we don't want to see so that we can heal it, so it's not there anymore. And one of the things Debbie Ford talked about that I love the visual is, it's like trying to hold down, if you were in, and you had all kinds of like beach balls, and you're trying to hold them in a swimming pool, and you try to hold down one and it's okay. But if you try to hold down a bunch, they're going to start popping up. And before you know it, you're nasty to people. You're in a line and you're yelling at someone, or you're at the bank and you're whatever it may be, and you're being nasty. There's no reason for it, and you don't know why you're overreacting, or you're yelling at your children, or you're reacting to your loved ones, because there's those beach balls that are popping up because we're trying to hold down so much emotion.
Yeah. So I love to talk about what we don't talk about in New Thought, about the grief and the loss, and then forgiveness. We were talking about that before, as a process as well. So I also do a workshop on that, really looking at the process rather than the magic wand. Okay, I forgive you. So, if Reverend Gina, if you go out this afternoon, there's somebody going too slow on 93, you're trying to get to downtown Boston, they're in your way, you can probably forgive them. But again, Mother's Day and Father's Day coming up for us, we may carry resentment and regret and hurt and stories from 20 or 30 or 50 or 70 years ago. And there's always the opportunity to feel what we feel and allow ourselves to ultimately grieve that and forgive it.
And that's where, especially practitioner sessions are wonderful.
May our ministers and our practitioners and our licensed unity teachers allow our people to feel what they feel.
It's so important.
Rather than,
it is spiritual. It is spiritual to feel. It
totally is. Yes. Yeah.
And that's how we live our life, is to be able to be authentically us. Because if not, we're fighting back, and that blocks our joy. So it's opening up to new ways to be able to find joy within us. But if we're blocked by all those things we don't want to talk about, then we don't have, often people don't even know that that's what the problem is. I've been a life coach at this point. I've been a life coach for 15 years, and the average person doesn't even know who they really are or what they really want. They just know they're not happy. So many people in our society, get to a point they're like, I've worked my whole life. This is really all there is. And my answer to that is always no, there's so much more, but we've got to get to it. What do you really want? And people think, oh, well, I want money. Well, if I offered you $1 million or the cure for your kids, whatever's wrong with your child, you would take the cure in a heartbeat. So something's more important than money. So what do you really want? So there's, well, I want, it's not about a car. It's not about the stuff. What does contentment and fulfillment look like in your life? And if you can't even picture it, which many people cannot, how do you begin to let it in?
Right. Absolutely.
So I wanted to, before we run out of time, because it goes by so quickly, I wanted to talk about, you have an organization that you work with that is amazing. I mentioned in the beginning, urbanstreetangels.org. And when we were chatting, I was so touched by it, and if you can, tell us a little bit about this.
Absolutely. So one of the great joys of my life, in addition to everything that we've talked about up until now, and an amazing new relationship that I'll just throw that out there, is Urban Street Angels. Yet, love is just the greatest thing. Absolutely.
Yes.
So 11 years ago, I was senior minister for a center in San Diego, and we were looking for a nonprofit organization to support. And as I don't believe in luck, I don't believe in coincidence. So as divine timing and intervention would have it, I Googled or whatever we were using 11 years ago, and found this organization or this work that was part of a Disciples of Christ congregation. And the senior minister at that church was in the process of making it separate from the church and making it its own 501c3 nonprofit organization. So Eric Lovett, our founder, I reached out to him. They were doing an outreach to the streets and taking sack lunches to homeless young people in the Ocean Beach area of San Diego, which is the furthest west. So it's on the ocean. That's where a lot of young people of this age group hung out. So he and his volunteers would go and take sack lunches, and he talked with one of the youth, and the youth said, I really appreciate the food, but what I really need is a place to sleep. So my church donated 1,000 pairs of socks to help them with their work. And then Eric asked me if I would come on as a founding board member, to which, of course, I said yes. So I've done some work. I worked with a shelter. And so now I work with mentors, donors, and volunteers. But what we do is provide housing, employment, education referrals, and life skills training for homeless 18 to 25-year-olds. And these are young people who have aged out of foster care and had no place to go, or had an abusive relationship or an abusive situation at home and needed to leave home, or came out as gay or lesbian or trans and the family threw them out, or just for whatever reason didn't have a home to stay in. San Diego has I don't like the word challenge. San Diego has an opportunity with homelessness, and of those, and that's veterans and families and younger children, we estimate there are more than 1,000 homeless transition age youth. So this age group of 18 to 25-year-olds. So that's the group we feel they're very underserved. And so that's the group we offer services to, because we believe that that's how you break the cycle of homelessness, is to get them at this age into housing and employment. So about 130 beds in our beds. in our program. That's what they say in the business. But what that means is 130 young people last night didn't have to sleep on the streets.
And think about like that, the level of care, because we are here as one in the oneness, and we say that and we throw that around so often, but what are we doing, and how often do we turn away from what we don't like to see? And there are so many people all over, I mean, the world, but especially in our country, that, you know, the youth are aging out, and there's more and more of that, and there's nowhere for them to go.
Right.
So there's people, you know, I'm grateful that people have stepped up for organizations like you have, and do step into, okay, so what can we do? And there are things that can be done. So you're having an event. So tell us about your event. And I want to make sure people know that this is there, and people can go to urbanstreetangels.org. Please take a look at the website. And whether you're in the area or not, you can, whether it's a donation or whether it's your time, whatever it is that you can give. Like you said, initially, you gave socks. You didn't, you know, you stepped up and you became part of the board, but not everyone has time or the calling to do that. But you know, you could give socks. You can do what you can do. And that's, think about the world that we live in. If we each did what we could do, think about the difference in what could happen in our lives.
Right. So, and two things I forgot to mention, so it'll be a surprise to you as well as to our viewers. So we're in downtown San Diego, and last week, right next door to our housing program where we have 70 of our youth, we opened Timmy's Place, which is a bistro and coffee house and print shop. And so they will employ as many as 50 of our youth. So our youth will walk out the door, turn, go 5 steps, and go to work. And nice. So they're serving breakfast, they're serving pizza, salads and sandwiches and so forth. And so they're learning about that. We have amazing partnerships with Lucky Duck, which is an organization in San Diego, the San Diego Padres, and the San Diego Restaurant Association. So once the youth have a little experience, employment, they can reach out and go find a job outside of our organization with one of the restaurants in town. Wonderful. So we do that, and then the other thing we do is we manufacture handmade bar soap. The organization is called 8 West, the number 8west.org, and I apologize I didn't talk about this with you before. Okay. But because the board met 6 or 7 years ago and said, we really need to come up with a way for our youth to work. What could we do? And we thought about chocolate chip cookies, and that didn't really work. So it's absolutely amazing, high-end right. Well, yeah, that's true. Really wonderful bar soap. So the number 8west.org is the website, and you can go on and take a look at that. Or there's also a link on the Urban Street Angels website.
And yeah, it's, you know, we every one of us has something within us that really calls to us, and it's up to us to share what we have. And it doesn't have to be that it's going to make you don't have to go broke doing it, but I love, for me, Mother Teresa is someone that I look at and I think, here's a woman who had nothing. She had never even left, her parents' side. Yeah. Goes into ministry, goes into become a nun, and here she is. They send her. She goes to Calcutta, and all she had was 2 hands and a heart, and that was enough. She helped people to live differently and die with dignity. She helped people to know they were loved. And if we can do that, you cannot, we truly are. The hands, the voice, the heart, we are spirit in form. It's not going to happen any other way. We are spirit in form. And when we show that, we feel that.
Yes.
We're not just conduits of it. We are it. And when we embody it, there's a feeling in that. That's part of that joy. That's part of that fulfillment. We are not separate from what we see. So when we turn a blind eye, or try to turn a blind eye to what we don't like, we're only hurting ourselves, because what we resist persists.
Right. Yes. So, and tying one together, let me just say that it's such a joy of my life to work with this organization. And that was one of the challenges for me after my husband's death, was to get up off the couch, turn off the television, and the still small voice finally wasn't so still or so small and said, Jerry, it's time to get back with Urban Street Angels. And so I am just as ideally wonderful work as I do here, it is the greatest thing in the world for me, because it totally feeds my soul and makes my heart sing and my tail wag and whatever else. So you had mentioned earlier, we get a lot of support. So the youth are with us for between 4 and 9 months, depending on their needs. And our intention is for them to get their own apartment and turn the page into the next chapter of their lives. And so we work with several organizations in San Diego that will subsidize the youth to leave our program and then go find what could quite possibly be their first apartment. Most of the time the apartments are furnished, but occasionally they are not. And so I have a really big birthday coming up in July. And my intention
You 25?
Yeah, give or take, times 2.5, give or take. My intention, I'm going to be doing a Facebook fundraiser to raise money so that we have furniture available. So when one of the youth graduates and gets their own apartment and there is not furniture there, we can help them with a bed and a dining room set and a sofa and whatever else they need. We had this experience a couple of weeks ago where the youth graduated and they went to this great apartment, but it was just 4 empty rooms. And so they didn't have anything to sleep on or sit at or on or with. And so that's my intention, to have that pool of money available so that we can help the youth graduate and get on to their next experience. So
Wonderful.
More news to follow on that.
Wonderful. So there's just so much good that we can do. And it's about really being in a place of allowing ourselves. And sometimes, whether it's grief, whether it's, even overwhelmed, when we look at the news, it seems like, well, there's so much. Where do you even begin? You begin where you are. And the greatest way out of, first of all, I believe suffering is a choice to stay in pain. Pain will happen, but suffering is staying there. Now, the choice isn't always conscious. Nobody would want to suffer necessarily, right, but it is a choice that we can do something different, and we need help for that. So it's finding people and also your tribe that help you to remember yourself. And
Yes.
When we volunteer at organizations like this, it's a wonderful opportunity to see, whenever I think I might have problems, you walk into the doors of something like that and you realize how blessed you are. You drive downtown in any major city and see how blessed I am to have all that I have. Yep. There's a difference between problems and inconveniences. And when I'm caught up in thinking of me instead of the greater, I am that we are, it's amazing the difference on perspective.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And, time is moving quickly. And I want to make sure people know that they can go to, again, I want to just mention again, the conference is coming up, the fall conference, and it is still early bird. I want people to make sure that they, that there is early bird pricing for that and that they can get that. And again, it's Anton, because we've covered all kinds of things today.
Yeah. And also, if you're not familiar with Anton or would like to get to know us a little more before you get involved, we do an event called Thought Leader Thursday. It's on the last Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And we do it's a 1 hour Zoom call with a new thought speaker or leader or luminary or author or someone in the new thought world. The next one will be the last Thursday of this month, again at 9 o'clock. Those are free to everyone. There's more information and links on our website. And so invite everyone to go on and take a look. And then if you're available, be with us for that. Again, the last Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. Pacific time. And then again, consider we'll have another workshop later in the year, and then think about coming to Unity Village in October.
And this is your email. I want to make sure people have they have a way to connect with you, because there will be a lot of people that watch at different times, and wherever you are and whenever you get a chance to watch it, reach out. Any questions you may have, they can reach you at Rev Jerry Troyer, sbcglobal.net. And I always encourage people that if for some reason, if you're on your phone and you're watching, or if you can do a screenshot so that people have the information that they need.
That's a good idea. Yes.
And also, I also want to make sure people know that they can reach out to me. So any comments that you may have, or any ideas for shows or anything like that, they can reach out to me directly. It's Gina at cslboston.com or Gina at believeInYouToday.com as well. So I encourage people to, also remember urbanstreetangels.org. Take a look at it when you get a chance. And I have a couple of announcements that I want to make as well. And tonight, every Thursday night, CSL Greater Boston hosts our Sacred Circle at 7. And of course, 7 o'clock is East Coast time where I am. So Sacred Circle at 7. And it is always a different spiritual leader, and it is a different topic. And this week's topic is identifying and diffusing triggers. And I have to tell you, it's Reverend Lauren Martin that's going to be hosting it. And she was amazing. And it was such a wonderful conversation that we're doing it again. We barely scratched the surface, because we all have triggers in our life. We all have things that bother us. So if you're available, you can go to CSL Greater Boston page on Facebook, or this is the Zoom meeting information. You can snap a picture if you'd like, and just know that every Thursday we're here. It's always that same meeting ID and passcode. So I invite you to our sacred conversation, which is always fabulous. I also want to mention that we have a workshop coming up. I have a workshop on May 21st via Zoom. You can feel free to reach out to me. Your Journey to Happiness, and it's on my book. And it is a 10-step guide to get to wherever you are, to have more joy in your experience, to live and appreciate that happier life. So again, it is on Sunday, May 21st, and this is Eastern Time, 1 to 3 p.m. Reach out to me for any questions. My contact information is, again, Gina at cslboston.org, and my phone number, 401-580-5800. And the last one I wanted to mention was foundations. We are doing a lot with our friends in Barbados, and we are beginning a class in Barbados for foundations, the basics. And, if you haven't done it in a while, it's always a great thing to get back to the basics. So it is going to be on Saturday afternoons, coming up next Saturday, the 20th, at 3:30. And it's going to be, we're going to do 8 weeks, and we're going to have extended times on 2 of those. But in general, it's going to be May 20th, 3:30 to 6 p.m. And it is a special rate because it's the first time we're ever offering it in Barbados, and you're welcome to come along for the fun. So I encourage you to be with us and know there's a lot of good stuff. And there's a lot of stuff that you can participate and find your tribe in that doesn't cost money, just your attention. And it's so important that we invest our time and our attention to our intention. Yep. And I know that's something that you do a lot, that you spend your time, Reverend Jerry, you spend your time on what's important to you, New Thought, the teachings, bringing it out into the world. And then also when you're dealing with the youth, what greater age group, any age group is important, but it's so rewarding to give yourself to something like that where you can see where you've made a difference. How has that raised your joy?
Well, I'm a New Thought minister, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, no matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing. And so they don't know it, but I'm always bringing New Thought principles into the conversation with the youth. And they're talking about this and that situation and that situation. And yes, but what if you could look at it this way? What if you could think about it this way? So we are ministers and practitioners, whether we have the alphabet soup behind our names or not. And so that's one of the joys of my life, is to give the youth the opportunity to have wait for it, new thought.
Maybe, and we all know, change your thinking, change your life. So
I read that somewhere before.
A few places. Yep.
Correct? Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. So, and that's one of the great joys of my life. Yeah.
So, it's been such a gift to speak with you. What brings you so other than what we've heard, what brings you joy?
Okay, so you're going to make me cry, and that's all right. So the other thing that brings the other part of my life, I have a ridiculously wonderful life. And the other thing that brings me joy, in addition to family, in addition to time here, time with my center and with Anson, is a time with my beloved and trips to Disneyland. So we're about an hour and a half down the road from Anaheim. My Oliver is a ridiculous Disneyland enthusiast. I never really thought about it one way or another, but then when we got together and he's like, well, let's go. And it's just the most amazing experience. And so Pooh Bear is my spirit animal. I have him all over my house, and it's just so much fun and so wonderful. And, there are days when I'm a bear of very little brain. And so, he and I are close friends, but it's just fun and it's frolic. When was the last time we frolicked? We have to allow ourselves to do that. That's really important. So thank you for asking. That's a huge part of my life as well.
Well, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for showing us how to have fun and follow our hearts. It has been a gift to have you here with us, and I'm definitely inviting you back and looking forward to it. Thank you to everyone. I wish you a beautiful week, a beautiful life, living your calling, your passion, knowing that you are the beloved of the beloved. Celebrate it, live in the joy that is your birthright. Blessings and love. Namaste.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate.